One thing I noticed that in all my videos of talking about what a warrant officer is and what a warrant officer does and everything about warrant officers, the one main thing I forgot to really get into was what are the prerequisites to becoming a warrant officer? So you know what? Let's take a walk and talk about this, okay? All right. Taking this nice little walk. Beautiful day at Fort Gordon. I mean, beautiful. I mean, as you can see, Thanksgiving time, you know, and everybody's gone. So let's just take a walk and talk about this. So, to become a warrant, the basic requirements. So we're looking at the administrative requirements. Just to be able to put your packet in, just to get through the board. First requirement is to have a GT score of 110. It's a general technical score. So when you take your ASVAB test, it's broken down into, I believe, 7 to 10 different categories. The GT score is one of them. I believe it's general technical score. All officers have to have at least a minimum of a GT score of 110. That's non-waiverable. So these first ones I'm going to talk about are non-waiverable. We'll get into waivers at another video, but non-waiverable means like you have to have it, no ifs, ands, or buts. So that's the first one. GT score of 110. Number 2, citizenship. You have to be a U.S. citizen. No questions asked. Not, I don't want to say naturalized citizen, but you're still a citizen. Not green card, not papers, U.S. citizen. That's first and foremost. Just like to become a president, you have to be a U.S. citizen. There are programs to go to the military to get your citizenship, but to become an officer, you have to be a citizen. All right, let's jump into the next one, shall we? So number three, education. You have to be a high school graduate or have your GED. Same requirements as you need just to get into the military in general. If you want to go enlisted, just to enlist, you need to have your high school diploma or your GED. I've heard of programs to where you can get in the military and work towards your GED, but I don't know if they still do that. But as far as from a warrant officer, that's a must. This is where the warrant officers and the O grades differ, but that's for a whole different video. But non-waiverable, you have to have your high school diploma or GED. Number 4, you have to be able to get a security clearance. Not just any security clearance, you just can't have an interim, but you have to be eligible for the secret security clearance or top secret. The reason it's either or is because it depends on the job or your MOS you're going to do or have or obtain when you become a warrant. Some warrants only require you to have a secret security clearance, while others require for you to have a top secret, and others require for you to have a top secret with branches off of it. But your bare minimum is a secret depending on the job. Security clearance is non-waiverable. Here's a weird and funny one. Passing the APFT or the ACFT, the Army Combat Fitness Test nowadays. So as we all know that the APFT is discontinued, being replaced by the Army Combat Physical Test. Army Combat Fitness Test. Blah, blah, blah. It's being replaced by that. It's still working on coming into effect. So as of right now, the Army technically does not have a physical fitness test. So to become a warrant, you still can use your APFT that you have taken previously, before all of this, and it's valid up into March 2020. I'm sorry, 2022. I can't even talk nowadays. But it's valid up until March 2022. And at that time, that's when the Army Combat Fitness Test should take effect across the board. Right now, they're still in the diagnostic phase, so that's why there's a limbo. When it comes to the fitness test, also becoming a warrant, this part, or actually these prerequisites obtain or pertain to those who are already in the military becoming warrants. Because primarily, most of your warrants are coming from the NCO court enlisted side over to the officer side. However, when it comes to flight, that is a different story. And on the cyber side, they're actually talking about street to sea. But as of right now, we're talking about enlisted coming over to the warrant side. Next on the list is passing a physical. Many of you guys go to the doctors every year, take your physical. If you're active duty, you have to take your, I forget the name of that physical, but you have to take a physical every year. But this physical is different. It's commissioning physical. It's a specific physical that you take just to become a commissioned officer. That's a plus, or a must. You must take this physical and pass it, of course. If you are, that's for technicians. If you're going flight, there's actually a flight physical that you have to take. I'm not going into details on what it, what's entailed, but you have to go through and pass that. Here's a funky one. You must have 12 months left on your enlistment contract. 12 months. I believe this is just so that you can, when you put your paperwork in and it's able to hit the board, that by the time you make it through the candidate course, you will be appointed and then commissioned. Note I said appointed first, because when you're WO1, you're appointed. If you have less time than that, it can roll through your contract and it can really screw things up. So you must have a minimum of 12 months left on your contract. Active federal service. So you have to have no more than 12 years of active federal service. So you can't be in more than 12 years for active federal service. If you want to become an aviator, no more than 8 years in. However, luckily for everyone else and everybody, this is waiverable. So if you're past that point, they can write a waiver to waive that requirement. Let's say if you have 15 years in, which I have seen it. I went to Warrant Officer basic course with someone who had, what did this man have? One had 15, but he was reservist. One was AGR, Active Guard Reserve, so he's active duty on the reserve side, but National Guard side he was. I think he had right around 17 years. So obviously that was waived. So you have to have no more than 12 years in or 8 years in to become an aviator. Final and foremost, out of the basic prerequisites, this doesn't pertain to the individual MOSs because they have their own requirements. Aside from these, this is minimal just to be able to be able to pick whatever job, and then you have to go down that route. So you have to be between the ages of 18 and 46, 18 and 46, to be an aviator, 18 and 32. Now this one changes due to the needs of the Army, but this is waiverable. I was in Warrant Officer basic course with someone who was, I guess he might have been over 46, but it's up to the needs of the Army. Because during wartime, where enlistment was between 18 and 35, I believe it was, they bumped it up to 42. I think the Marines were the ones that didn't even budge. You couldn't be past the age of 29, but this is all about Army. So it depends on the needs of the Army on this one, but it is waiverable. And a lot of these are waiverable because the warrant officer billets are hard to fill and they're specialties. So there are ways that you can get direct commission to become a warrant officer, just like to become a regular officer. And you might have to waive some of these requirements, aside from the ones that were non-waiverable. Age might be one. If you have a high-skilled developer and, they're trying to get into cyber, you might have to waive that just so you can have that kind of professional in there. So that does happen. It happens a lot. But just to cover some of the basics on how to become, or what it takes to become a warrant officer, these are your basics. You know, the things that are waiverable and non-waiverable. So, you know, good luck to you guys on your journey, and we'll talk again and meet up on the W side, the warrant side.
Ever